Manchester United 2, Sunderland 0. An afternoon with no drama. A comfortable win. Not perfect, not amazing, not scintillating, but we just got the job done. We kept Sunderland at arm's length all afternoon and won the game pretty easily in the end. So how did Manchester United go about getting all 3 points in pretty comfortable fashion? And today we're going to start off with the defensive side of things, which you perhaps wouldn't expect when we're talking about a win and a clean sheet, but I do want to talk about how United approached this game defensively, because I thought particularly for the first 45 minutes, it was a little bit different to what we normally see. Just this week, I've been talking about the fact that United are disconnected and lack cohesion in the team. It feels like at times the forwards are pressing, whilst other players are staying a bit deeper, and it leaves these big spaces in the middle, and it leaves us outnumbered in midfield, which has been a real problem so far this season. What we saw right away in this game was United not actually pressing so high. Now, you might want to be critical of that. Perhaps in the long term, we want to see a more aggressive team. But I think, actually, as manager, what you've got to do is find the best way to get 3 points this weekend. And that's what Amorim did. Initially, defensively, he went to more of a 4-4-2 shape off the ball, with Mount and Ahmad playing as the two wide players, and Bumo and Sesko as the front two. But more importantly, what he did was he didn't ask his team to press so high. And what that meant was just that the whole team was more compact. The gaps were much smaller, our players were closer together, and it was much more difficult for Sunderland to move the ball through in these positions. So yes, Sunderland sort of walked forward relatively unchallenged and they were able to progress the ball, sure, but they couldn't really progress it into dangerous areas because United was so compact. And we were compact in a few different shapes. It sort of started off as a 4-4-2, particularly when the ball was down this side, with Ahmad trying to jump out from the block, and then as the ball would go to the far side, we would of course see Mount sort of naturally drift over, but in these moments we could then see Ahmad on the far side now dropping into wing-back, and United almost become this sort of lopsided 5-3-2. But again, the most important thing was that we were compact, and yes, Sunderland were bringing the ball forward, but they weren't going anywhere, and in particular, they couldn't go through the middle. Now, we often talk about the centre of the pitch being the most important part to defend and look after, because that is where the goal is, and you can see United trying to achieve that. Here in our more typical traditional shape, but you can see plenty of numbers in the middle. And what United are trying to do is wait for the ball to go wide before then jumping, before being aggressive. So when it was in the middle, we're sort of letting Sunderland have the ball. The second they go wide, we force them into a decision. So when Bumo comes over, he closes the player down, forces him to play direct into the middle of the pitch, and Casemiro is there to sweep up. And this was something that went on all game in various different shapes, in a 5-3-2, in a 5-2-3, and also in a 4-4-2. But United, centrally compact. Not the most exciting, aggressive pressing football, but pretty effective. By the way, I would just quickly like to interrupt the video to ask you guys if you could please subscribe to the channel. We're desperately trying to push towards 80,000 subscribers. I haven't sort of done one of these like sections for a while, so yeah, if you could please subscribe, that would be amazing. So, of course, we are talking about a United win, so we also need to look at United on the ball. And again, I think particularly the first 30, maybe 35 minutes, United tactically looked really good in terms of exploiting a weakness in the Sunderland system. So what we often saw was perhaps a long ball from the back, the second ball settles, and eventually United slow it down, and of course we get into this shape that we always see from United. What we were trying to do, though, is sort of draw Sunderland onto us so that we could then find the gaps in behind. And when I say gaps in behind, I don't necessarily mean playing long balls over the top. I mean behind the front line. So what we would often do is play the ball deeper to either Luke Shaw or Lenny Yoro in an attempt to draw these wider Sunderland players forward. The problem for Sunderland was that we now had room out wide, with Dalot on the left-hand side and Ahmad on the right-hand side. This room and space is kind of proven by the fact that these were the two players that progressed the ball the most via the carry for United in the game. The wing-backs had a decent amount of room. And the reason for that was because Sunderland was scared of the United forwards. So typically, as Yoro sort of rolls his ball forward, you might expect the opposition fullback to be nice and tight on him, but he wasn't, because he was sort of scared of Mbumo. He didn't want to go too far away from him. And the same on the other side. They couldn't get too tight to Dalot because Mason Mount would then have space. So instead he would sit deeper, and now Dalot would have time on the ball and United could progress. I think importantly on the right hand side, this was really effective. The first 30 minutes, I think these two found it too easy. We've been waiting for these two to sort of click, and I think this match could be the beginning of that. I think they looked really good and actually just had too much for Sunderland. In terms of a pressure relief valve for the team, they were phenomenal. We could give the ball to these guys, particularly Mbumo, and we just knew and trusted that they were going to look after it. And then as we ventured further up the pitch, as we gained territory, they were threatening. Their movements off the ball suited each other. They were selfless, making room for the other player. Now, if we just go back a step, this is what I'm talking about here in terms of United progressing the ball out wide. So we can see Lenny Yoro has drawn the Sunderland player towards him, which means when he plays this ball up the line and Ahmad comes towards it, United can get the ball forward. But importantly, Ahmad's got enough time to separate himself from the defender. The defender, yes, he's nearby, but not close enough. Ahmad's got time to get his head up. And interestingly, this week, United had wrong-footed wing-backs, so the right-footed player on the left and the left-footed player on the right, allowing these passes back inside. And like I said, Mbumo here was too good. Perhaps not as much of him in the final third as what we've seen recently, but in these parts, he was so good at getting United up the pitch. And we could also do the same on the other side. Shaw draws the Sunderland forward in. He then plays the ball out wide. Dalot has time. Yes, there's a defender relatively close to him, but he's about 10 yards away. Dalot's got time to get his foot on the ball, get his head up and look forward. And that's when United can progress. And like we said, particularly on the right-hand side, this was very effective. Ahmad and Mbumo, selfless counter movements to make space for each other. So Ahmad gives the ball to Mbumo. Mbumo very wide here, almost like a wing-back. Ahmad actually the more central player here. But Ahmad makes the selfless run off the ball. He runs in behind, partly because he probably wants the return pass, but also because it can create space for Mbumo. Because as he runs, it drags the defenders deeper. Mbumo then gets the space to come inside, and we know that from these positions, his delivery can be an absolute joke, and I don't know if this is intentional. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say it was. The pick out for Mason Mount is phenomenal. The first touch is delicious, and then the finish speaks for itself, really. It's just quality play. Now, I think what I love about those moments there in terms of progressing the ball but also scoring the goal was that United were just efficient. I wouldn't say we were amazing today. Yeah, we played well, but we weren't, again, scintillating. We weren't on fire. But we were just quite professional. We just went about the job and knew what the jobs were and got those jobs done. Game state, of course, comes into the equation as well. Manchester United 2-0 up. We haven't seen that too often. But largely, it was quite a direct game that United played in terms of the goalkeeper making his debut. Brilliant debut. You can see his pass map. It was quite a direct Manchester United performance. It was a team that was looking to go quite long. But you can do that when you've got Šeško. Now, I don't actually think he's a target man. I don't think that's the best way to use him. But in terms of settling into life at Manchester United, I think he's doing absolutely brilliantly. Of course, happy for him scoring a goal. I love to see a striker scoring tap-ins. But it's the fact that he's a real focal point for the team. He's a player that we can go up to. And even if he can't always win the header, the minimum he does is sort of draw the attention of multiple players. Because he's 6'5" and got the most ridiculous leap, people get around him to sort of physically try and put him off. But as always, if he's taking the attention of one or two, other players can get on the ball. Mason Mount, phenomenal in this game and just so good for United as acting as the spare man. And what I mean by that is just picking up positions where he's needed. Do United need an extra man in midfield? Okay, Mason Mount's going to come over and provide that. We need someone close to Šeško? Don't worry, Mount's going to be there. Dalot needs help out wide. Mount can go and do that job. He's got the energy to do it. He's got the intelligence to find the space, but also the technical quality to get on the ball, to progress the ball, but also at times keep the ball for United. But what I really love is just the fact that we can use Šeško as that focal point. There were even moments in open play, not necessarily from the long ball, where let's say we might be playing down the left-hand side, we're playing the ball short, we're trying to sort of draw Sunderland over into these positions here. I love that we can eventually work the ball into midfield, work the ball into Šeško. Then he's got that hold-up ability. He draws the attention of multiple players. And also, which is good, he's got the passing ability. He's got the technical ability. He can then find the ball out to the far side. And again, we can see Ahmad and Mbumo sort of coming to life. And again, it's not the most exciting football I've ever seen. But I felt like we did a lot of the basics very well. And a lot of the time, that's all you need to do. Especially when you've got quality like we do have. Now, speaking of quality, United should have gone on to win this game by more. The second half ultimately was a little bit dull. Sunderland had a lot of possession. They, of course, eventually changed shape and sort of nullified United a little bit. But also United were 2-0 up, so didn't really feel the need to go full throttle. I always felt that if we wanted to, we could speed it up and we could be more threatening. Outside of that, the second half was a little bit dull, a little bit slow, a little bit disappointing, not too much going on. For my liking, we invite Sunderland onto us too much. You know, I want to see United control games by getting on the ball and keeping it and killing the second half in that fashion. But we didn't. That's not how Ruben Amorim approaches the game. He wants a more pragmatic approach, so we've got to get used to it. I still think, though, we should have scored 2 goals. We should have scored 2 more, and ultimately, if we'd have won this match 4-0, I don't think you can complain. This is one of the moments. Šeško, First of all, you can see that he's so good at this. He's so good at just being a nuisance, challenging these balls. The leap is ridiculous. But then he's got the technical ability to actually get on the ball, to carry it, to move the team forward. The timing of release here is really good. And this isn't a must score, it's far from it. But I tell you, for Mbeumo, cutting in onto his left, just as Ahmad has gone round on the right, this is actually a really good position for Mbeumo to be in. The effort is horrendous, he slices it so badly. But in terms of United getting into a position to kill the game, you know, a player of Mbeumo's quality would expect to do better. And I think also this one, of course, very much a transitional moment. Sunderland are pushing on, trying to get themselves back into the game. This is where we've got threat. Someone like Cunha coming from the bench is a sign of the depth that we've got in certain positions in attack. 3v1 really here against that last defender. You do just expect a better decision from Mbeumo. He's got to go right. He's got to go right to Ahmad here. Instead he plays left and the pass gets intercepted. But this is where, again, we're talking about killing the game. That was the thing that frustrated me most. 2-0 up at half-time. Good. You know, really professional performance. Second half, defensively, switched on, concentrating, aware, dealt with anything that Sunderland offered. Brilliant. I would just love it if we could get that sort of final touch by getting the third goal and maybe the fourth, just to completely kill it. Now, perhaps I'm being a little bit too demanding there, asking for a third or fourth goal. This isn't a United side exactly full of confidence right now because of the start to the season. Ultimately, the most important thing was the 2-0 win. And what I've been asking for recently is for Amorim to give the players the best opportunity to win and also to make changes when it isn't working. And I think he did that in this game. Defensively, we saw a slightly different approach. Pragmatic, yes, but solid and compact. I keep saying, if we're going to be defensive, let's defend well. And today we did that. Like I said, we really kept Sunderland at arm's length. They didn't offer anything in this game, which is easier said than done. They've had a good start to the season. I still think United can be more aggressive in the second half. I don't think anyone would sit here and say it was a fun performance in the second half. It was a little bit dull, but it was professional. You know, no drama, no hassle, no big flashpoints in the game. Just very, very comfortable. Led, by the way, by a very confident goalkeeper at the back, which I still feel really helps the rest of the team. United never looked like conceding, and I don't know the last time that was the case. It was just very professional, very secure, 2-0 win for Manchester United, and it takes us into the international break, actually on a positive for once, which is really nice to see. First clean sheet of the performance of the season, and we can absolutely get so much better. This is not amazing football. We can improve so much more. We can get even more out of these players. Tactically, we can do a lot better still. So that's a promising thing. If you can win without being amazing, you know, just almost doing the bare minimum, that's a real sign of the quality that you've got at your disposal. So it's absolutely a positive for United. And of course, the biggest positive is 3 points on the board, a little boost up the table, and on to the next one. In terms of right here, right now, today, there's nothing else to talk about. So thank you guys very much for watching this video. I hope you have enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.